The problem is Hamas said before, during, and after the discussions in New York that it doesn't mean anything to them, that they'll continue with their rocket launches into Israel, and it's not just words. Today we saw an escalation of their rocket attacks. They hit north into Israel, as far north as the city of Beersheba, the city of Ashdod, 30 plus rockets and missiles coming into Israel. Does anyone really expect that Israel sits there and doesn't defend our people, that we don't act to protect our people in the face of this sort of violence?
Well, let me ask you about that. It has been 2 weeks now. As you mentioned, the rockets aren't stopping. Civilian casualties are mounting in Gaza. The humanitarian situation is degrading to a dangerous point. International opinion is becoming increasingly one-sided. Is this working from Israel's perspective?
Yes, we think our operation is working. We think it will continue because we want to keep the pressure up on Hamas. Our goal is ultimately minimalistic. Our goal is ultimately defensive. We want to create a new security environment in which the civilian population of southern Israel no longer has to live in the threat of an incoming Hamas rocket. And I'd remind you, it's not just days and weeks. The Israeli population in the south of my country has been on the incoming end of these Hamas rockets for months and even years. It has to stop. And stopping that aggression from Gaza into Israel is the fundamental basis of any calm to be established in the south.
Well, your concern for the people of Israel is understandable. Let me ask you about the people of Gaza. Aid shipments have been suspended because both the Red Cross and the United Nations are saying that their vehicles, their employees, are coming under Israeli attack. What's being done to remedy that, and what kind of responsibility will Israel now take for getting food, water, and medicine into the people of Gaza?
You'll notice that the UN resolution commended Israel for our policy of humanitarian corridors. We want to do what we can to help make sure that relief supplies reach the civilian population of the Gaza Strip, who we don't see as an enemy. We want to see what we can do to help them, working energetically with the UN agencies, with the Red Cross and others. It's a difficult combat situation. If there have been problems in communication, if there's been problems in coordination, we have to work together, Israel and the international community, Israel and the humanitarian groups, to make sure we can fulfill the needs of the people of Gaza, to make sure the supplies reach where they're supposed to reach.
How quickly will they be able to get back in? These supplies have been suspended. People need this, obviously. How quickly is your government going to make sure the supplies get in, whether brought by the UN and the Red Cross or Israel owns trucks? Will you get the material in? People need it.
First of all, you have to know today we opened the crossings for supplies, and Hamas actually shot rockets at one of the crossings, stopping the supplies going in. But we are committed. Since this crisis started, you've had dozens, scores of convoys going in with humanitarian aid, foodstuffs, medicine, and so forth for the people of Gaza. There was a problem that the supplies, once reaching Gaza, because of the combat situation, supplies weren't being distributed to the people who need it. So we established this program of humanitarian windows where there's this total cessation of fire, and then the humanitarian agencies can distribute what needs to be distributed. But you have to know that Hamas has been exploiting that situation, unfortunately, to have military operations. And we've got to try to balance our desire to help the people of Gaza, but not unintentionally to help Hamas. That's not what we want to do.
Are there any alternatives for Israel at this point, or is the kind of fighting, the kind of suffering we are seeing in Gaza simply going to continue for the foreseeable future?
We will keep up the military pressure on Hamas, and at the same time we will expedite and we will increase our support for humanitarian activities to help the innocent civilian population of Gaza. Ultimately, they're not our enemy, and we'll do what needs to be done to make sure that medicines and foodstuffs and so forth reach the people of Gaza.